Gutierrez, and I'm back for the first time ever with Cartoons versus Cancer, my new series on my YouTube page where I invite all kinds of cartoon creators on to talk about whatever they've made and answer your questions. And today we are joined by Book of Life director and El Tigre creator, as well as various other things like many shorts for Mad TV and many other comics, Jorge Gutierrez. Hello, Jorge.
Hey!
That's Jorge.
Hey, question for you. Thank you for having me, but I'm on YouTube and I can't see you.
Excuse me?
Like, I'm on YouTube and I can't see you.
Oh,
Should I be able to see you?
Like, watch the live stream?
Yeah, the live stream doesn't work.
Is it not working?
It says one person is watching it.
What is it?
Okay, hold on.
Oh, I don't think...
There you are.
Yeah, I don't think it's I think it takes a little time. It takes a little time.
If you wanna start your intro again.
Yeah, I think, does it take a little time to like buffer?
I think so.
I think. All right. So anyway, technical difficulties. We're cool like that. We talk like that. So Jorge's body himself could not be here today, so he's with us with soul and spirit today. I have trapped his soul in this Mexican skull, and he will be the one that is talking to us today. So any questions are being answered by Jorge, but in the body of this totally Mexican skull. Yep, listen to him laughing away in there. He's having a great time.
Thank you again for having me, man. I'm super honored, and I think what you're doing for your friend is incredibly noble.
Oh,
so anything I can do to help.
Thank you. So a little heads up for all of you out there who would like to ask Jorge questions. Be smart, first of all. If Jorge and I are talking, don't ask your question then. I won't see it and it won't get answered. How about you wait till we're done talking, and then there's a better chance of it being answered. It's called using your brain, and it works a lot. So you should probably wait until we're done talking to ask your question if you want it to be answered. But to get the little ball rolling, I guess, I'll start with Jorge. You have a very distinct style, in a good way, of drawing. Like, what were your influences exactly?
Well, growing up in Mexico, I was super lucky that for some reason, I guess Japanese cartoons had such low budgets for licensing that they showed a ton of stuff over there. So I got to actually grow up with a lot of anime and a lot of American stuff coming out there. So, Hanna-Barbera stuff, and obviously all the Popeyes. I'm a big Popeye guy. And then, I saw Messenger Z when I was growing up. Oh. So I kind of became a fan of all that stuff, and I wondered where the hell are the Mexican people and where are the Latin people in any of these cartoons? So that was kind of my mission growing up. I wanted to make stuff that looked like me. Yeah,
it's definitely there. Like, how do you think bringing your culture into American? Well, obviously people know that Mexicans exist. Besides Donald Trump telling them they don't. How do you think you like bringing in this sort of Mexican culture into the the movie scene? Do you think that's like kind of warming people up to the idea of different art styles and stuff?
Absolutely. One of the things that I thought was Dora the Explorer was a cartoon that was very, very popular, and I figured there's a billion children all over the world that are now okay with a Latino character. And so I thought, thanks to Dora, there's going to be a whole generation of kids who see characters of other ethnicities and think they're a normal thing. Yeah. So she kind of paved the way for everything I do.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel like the way the world is today, you have to look at who is the audience, and the audience could not be more diverse. And so to have movies and TV shows that don't reflect that is kind of crazy right now.
Yeah, I would think Speedy Gonzalez wouldn't exactly be the fitting image of Mexicans in animation. So I'm happy to see people like you coming in.
Specifically, Speedy Gonzalez, for example. You take that character and people say, well, he's not really racist. He's really fast and he's really smart. But what I say is that's why it's racist, because that's the joke. That's the twist. Look, a Mexican guy who's smart and fast. And so that type of stuff, I'm not a big fan.
Yeah. It's good to see stuff like that, in the medium, which Which brings me to, with all your experiences in Mexico, you've said a few times that El Tigre is mostly based on kind of experiences that have happened to you before, right?
Yeah, I mean, El Tigre is pretty much, we saw, my wife Sandra and I, we saw all our favorite movies and all our favorite albums and all our favorite books were pretty much all based on real things that happened to the artist or the authors. And so for El Tigre, we said, let's look at our childhood. I mean, we both had pretty crazy childhoods, and let's try to make a show that reflects those experiences. Obviously, my dad's not a superhero and my grandpa's not a supervillain. But in my mind, when I was a kid, they sure were. My dad was an artist and he could draw, so I thought he was a superhero. And my grandfather was in the Mexican army. And so it was a little rough over there. And so I thought he was a supervillain. So when I was growing up, all my aunts would say, when you grow up, are you going to be like your grandpa or are you going to be like your grandfather? I mean, or like your dad or your grandfather. And so that's where the conflict of El Tigre came from.
Yeah, to say the least, some pretty crazy things happened in that show. What do you think is the craziest thing that's happened in that show that like actually happened in real life?
One of the craziest things that happened was just outside of the show was we did an episode where the audience got to vote to see if Manny was going to be end up being good or being evil.
Yeah.
And the audience voted for him to be evil. And Nickelodeon would not let us air that ending.
Yeah, I remember that. That was the online voting thing, right?
Yeah, they voted online, and they definitely rooted for him to be bad. And so, even though that's what the audience wanted to see, we decided, you know what, let's make him good.
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit that I was probably one of the people who voted for him to be evil. Now that I think back on it.
You know what? I voted for him to be evil too. So.
Yeah, it could work. It could work. If the show's creators rooting for it, it might just happen. So let's see. What are people in the comments asking? Nothing yet. More questions for you.
Ask away, dude. We have
questions are open. By the way.
Minutes to go.
Yeah, questions are open. By the way, for all you kids at home doing who want to ask questions. So you can ask away. Let's look here for a minute. Sorry. Yes. So sometimes when I look at your art, I see, and I have to look at this paper because I can never pronounce his name right. I see a little bit of mad cartoonist Sergio Aragonés. Is that correct? Sergio. All right. Sergio Aragonés. I see a little bit of his influence in there. Is that a valid opinion?
Not only is that you have a very good eye, my friend, but Sergio is a huge influence on me.
Is he?
And he's originally from, his family's from Spain, but he was born in Mexico. And here's what's crazy. He went to school for architecture, university, and my father was in his class, so they were buddies growing up.
Wow.
So when I became kind of obsessed with his stuff in Mad Magazine, he had a comic book called Gru, the Wanderer. I showed it to my dad, and he said, "What? I know that guy." And so he took me to Comic-Con to meet him, and I thought my dad was lying. I thought, there's no way you know Sergio Aragonés. And sure enough, we go, and he knew my dad. So my brain kind of exploded, and I peed my pants because I was so excited. And then he sat me down and basically told me exactly what my dad had been telling me for years. You gotta go to school if you want to make cartoons.
That's pretty cool. Like, is he a close friend of the family now?
I've gotten to know him, and I write to him every once in a while. And then when I work on the Mad Cartoon or Cartoon Network, he would come visit every week, so I got to hang out with him. But I would say, as a kid, he was by far my favorite cartoonist. And then to later find out that my dad knew him, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, the amount of looking back at some of the older stuff, the amount of detail he puts in it's so cool.
It's crazy. That's been a huge influence, that he wasn't scared to add so many details and make things so elaborate. I kind of love that stuff.
And it looks like the questions are pouring in now, so let's see what we got here.
Well, you pick the questions you want me to answer.
Yeah, I'll definitely. All right, so what's this person saying? All right, so Dahlia Dahlia says, and in my best random person on the internet voice, I wanted to ask, as an inspiring animator and a Latina, what advice do you give for those trying to get into the industry? I want to make more Latino characters so kids won't feel alone like I did. What do you think about that?
Wow, that's a beautiful question. And you know, the way this film industry and the TV cartoon industry is, it's kind of like a bank. And so the way I broke into the bank is very different than how people are breaking into the bank these days, because they change the alarms every time.
Yeah.
But the advice I can give you as a Latina is, as much as you try to watch as much stuff as you can and try to learn what's working, and try to figure out the things you like. Why do you like it? What is the thing you're watching? Like, why is it making you feel good? Why is it making you fall in love with these characters? And try to dissect those things, and then try to come up with your own stuff, and try to have the stuff that you come up with, in my opinion, have it be something that comes from you, from the inside. If your thing is just based on other things you like, that stuff tends to be very surface work, and executives more than likely are never into that stuff. When they buy a cartoon and when they buy a movie, what they're basically buying is not only the concept, but they're buying the person behind the concept. So as an artist, you want your voice to be really unique, and obviously the world is changing. 10 years ago, when I was trying to make stuff about Latin culture, no one wanted to do any of those things. The world we live in today, there's basically room for everything out there now. And there's we're in the golden era of animation as far as distribution goes. Netflix and Amazon, movies, TV shows, it's everywhere. So I would encourage you to go out there and pitch everywhere. And do not give up. Just keep pitching until your stuff gets going. And honestly, that's the only way to get your stuff out there, to put yourself out there and take a chance.
Yeah. Dahlia, I think Jorge and I both speak when we say, good luck with your thing. Definitely tell us how it's going when you finally get it going. Next, Pan Pizza Rebel Taxi asked, he's a guy on YouTube. Consider yourself lucky. You might not know him. Rebel Taxi asked, any Mexican cartoonists dub better than the original dub?
Any Mexican cartoonists dub better than the original dub?
Yeah.
The Mexican dubs are freaking amazing. For anybody who speaks Spanish, the stuff that's dubbed in Mexico is incredible. I would even say, as much as I love The Simpsons, I really love The Simpsons in Spanish. I think it's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And then with movies, I thought they did a really good job with Book of Life. They dubbed a really, really good version of it. But those are the only two examples I can give you.
Yeah, it made, if I remember correctly, Book of Life made more in Mexico and Brazil than it did in America, right?
Well, and actually that's not true. It made roughly $50 million in the U.S., and in Mexico it made, I believe, like 15. So it made more money in the U.S. than anywhere in the world.
Huh. Wikipedia was wrong.
It did really well in Mexico. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's
just tickets in Mexico aren't as expensive as the U.S.
Might want to go there sometime, I guess. I'd go to Mexico. It sounds nice. It sounds like a nice place.
I like that. Yeah, but if you go to Wikipedia for facts, you might want to double check them.
Yeah, you know what? We can party in Mexico one time and just totally just revamp all Wikipedia together in just one night, just flat out. So let's see. Oh, I can't read that. It's people that write these paragraphs. All right. What does it say? Why is Book of Life filled with so much beauty and symbolism? Asks, what's his name? Asks someone in the audience. I don't know his name because I can't see it.
Well, first of all, thank you, because that's a very compliment. It's a question that's a sandwich with compliments on the inside. So thank you for that. I love paintings and I love movies that have lots of symbolism. And I especially like things that when you watch them, you might not catch. But the more you watch them, the more you start, you start finding out that there's all these other layers, right? Like an onion. Like there's layers and layers, and the more you
No,
feel it,
don't do that.
the more you start crying. That's the type of symbolism I like. And especially with movies and shows for kids, I really believe that these things can have a life of its own for many generations. So Book of Life from the beginning was designed to be something that you could watch a million times and catch little things every single time. I mean, this thing is full of references to, you know, operas and plays and other movies and paintings and dances. I mean, this thing is bursting with all those things. So thank you for noticing those things.
Yeah, I rewatched it again today, and I'm pretty sure I can guarantee, because I saw a screenshot of it when I saw it in the movie. I looked it up again. Manny and some of the cast of El Tigre is in the beginning of Book of Life, right? In the part where the guy's selling the churros.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought so. Totally confirmed. I can't read this guy's name. Coattails 360. We'll say that. Oh, that's just mean. Never mind. I'm not gonna read that. Forget that. That's a mean comment. You're mean. Don't come onto my podcast and talk mean things about Jorge. He's awesome, and he's done more than you ever have. Oh snap! Look, he's a skull. Are you a skull? You're not a skull. He's got flower eyes. Look at his flower eyes. They're so beautiful. You got little flower eyes.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah. So let's see. Mrs. Ruth says, "What do you guys think about Coco?" That's a question for both of us. Coco, as in like the bean, I guess. I don't know. It's a nice bean. Makes chocolate. That's good. What about you? You like Coco, Jorge?
Yeah, I'm you know, Coco is a new Pixar Day of the Dead movie.
Is it? Is it?
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of Lee, the director. He, you know, Toy Story 3 is, I think, a freaking masterpiece. So I am looking forward to watching it. I have lots of friends working on it, and I, you know, as I publicly stated, I am rooting for that movie, and I wish everyone working on that movie success.
I apologize to everybody for that Coco Bean joke. I literally had no idea what that movie was. But are they they're legit making like another Day of the Dead movie kind of?
Yeah. You know, this is something that Pixar had been working on for a while. So it's definitely, I believe it's going to be coming out in a few years. But yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Pixar fan. And so I've, of all the studios that could make a Day of the Dead movie, I'm super excited to see what Pixar does.
Yeah. It'll be the second best Day of the Dead movie out there. I'll tell you that.
Well, you know, the way it works with movies and art, it should never be a contest.
There's not.
It's like what's the best flavor in the world? Like there's plenty of flavors. Don't worry about that.
I think Bill Watterson said it best, that there's no good art, there's no bad art, there's just art, and that's it.
Yeah. And you know, the way movies are, the real test will be time. You know, if people remember a movie for 20, 30 years, and then it was a good movie.
You know, I'll give you that. But speaking of Pixar, have you seen Inside Out yet?
Yes.
It's so good. Just gonna take a second off the podcast to say how great it is.
Well, when the imaginary friend dies, spoiler alert.
Spoilers.
I was crying like a baby.
It's a sad. The spoiler alert: no one dies. No one. I don't know what he's talking about. This guy. I don't know what he's talking about. What is it? Let's see. Any new questions? Oh yeah, more people talking about. I had no idea what Coco is. Sorry, I didn't know what Coco was. I'm no culture Americano. That's what I am. Oh, yeah.
Ask away, man.
Yes. All right. So let's see. What's this guy? Oh, all right. So PS2 Gator and Captain Sandy, that's one username, said, "Oh man, I'm a real big fan of Jorge's work. I'm a Cuban working on being an artist/animator. And my main question is, what is Jorge's process for making characters? both designing them and making their personalities and such?
You know, whenever I design, like the way I like to work, you know, both in TV and in movie stuff is I like to create a world that basically disagrees with the main character. Mm-hmm. So, for example, in El Tigre, the world was either black and white, but our main character was gray. He was trying to figure out that not all good things are actually good, and there's a reason some of the bad things are happening. Book of Life, same thing. The whole world was turning on our character, right? No one appreciated music. No one wanted him to be a musician. So I like to set up the world from the beginning to be something that the main character has to fight. And then I like, you know, again, everybody has their own taste. I like main characters that suffer a lot. For me, the main character should be the character that suffers the most in a film. And that's probably, you know, because of my Catholic upbringing.
Well, it shows the growth too, you know.
Yeah, it shows growth, and then I personally like sacrifice. I like it when the main character sacrifices for the greater good, right? You know, as a Hispanic artist, that's the type of work that speaks the most to me. And so, both in El Tigre and in Book of Life, the main characters are making major sacrifices for the good of the world, even though the world's not going to thank them. So those are things that I really gravitate towards. You know, I also like the idea that every character, especially the leads, have a giant hole in them. And so they had to figure out why they have that hole and if filling that hole is a good or a bad thing.
That's, I never thought, I'm a little cold. I never thought about it that way, but you're right. Like, now that I think back to some of your things, pretty much everybody is kind of against the main character. Maybe, like, do you think maybe that's just what makes, like, maybe that's why you root for him more? You know, you see everything's going wrong, and you're just like, I know he can do it, and then he gets through, and everybody's happy.
Yep.
So, yeah. That's good. I like that. That's good. Let's see. Here we have Michelle Irvowina. I don't know how to say. Here we have Michelle, and she asked, "How did you come up with the idea for the Book of Life?"
Well, the Book of Life was very much pretty. I go back for that idea for a long time. I went to Cal Arts, which is a film school in Los Angeles, and I did my student short, inspired by Day of the Dead, the wooden folk art doll idea. So I started this in 1997. When I finished that short in the year 2000, it did really well. It won a student Emmy. I got to go to the Cannes Film Festival. And at that point, I was someone who became a producer on Book of Life, Aaron Berger, who was my manager, signed me and he said, you know, there's nothing I can do with a short, but if you write a movie or if you come up with a movie concept, we can try to sell it. And so I went to a bookstore and I bought a How to Write a Screenplay book in 21 days, and I sat down and I wrote, you know, like a 30-page outline of Book of Life, and then I pitched it everywhere, and everybody told me, you know, the same thing. We're looking for funny talking animal movies. No one wants to see the subject matter. No one wants to see a movie about Hispanic culture. Day of the Dead is, as a concept, it's just too weird for a kids movie. And obviously, you know, there is no audience for any of this stuff. So I kind of put it away. And then years later, after El Tigre had happened, Tigre did pretty good. It won 7 Emmys and started opened a lot of doors. I got asked back by a lot of the film studios about a movie, and so I took out the exact same document from the year 2000. I ripped off the first page and typed a new page with a new date, and that's what I submitted, and eventually that's what became Book of Life.
So the Book of Life was originally written in 2000?
Yeah, I mean, if you go to my website on supermacho.com, you can see my student short, and that's basically where the movie came from.
That's so about 13 or 14 years.
15 years in the making.
Yeah, well, every year counts. Every year counts. Here we have. Here we have a question for me. Okay. Grumpet Studios, do you have any of the Book of Life pop figures? Yep, I have Manolo, and I have. Don't get mad at me for saying his name wrong. How do you say his name? The villain.
Wait, who? What?
The villain. I don't remember his name. X something.
Xibalba?
Yeah, Zabalba. I have Zabalba. I have him too. Can I just comment now on how like great Zabalba's design is? How did you come up with the idea like as using him as like tar or in all kinds of yucky things? Like where did that come from?
You know, in the original version of Book of Life, it was a little more mythical in that it was a story between God, death, and the devil making a bet on mankind. Mm-hmm. And so eventually, as it was explained to me, you can't have God and the devil be a character in a children's book.
Yeah, that won't go down so well.
No, you're not. Even though it's part of Mexican folklore, and even though it's part of sort of a lot of the iconography in Mexican folk art, it's impossible to do that in a kid's movie. Yeah. So God became the candle maker, and the devil became Xibalba. And Xibalba, to some extent, became a representation of a Western view of death, right? La muerte is a Mexican view of death. It's the mother who takes the pain away. It's the lover who welcomes you back. It's someone who's rooting for humanity. It's someone who is reminding humanity, like, you get so lucky because you get to live. Mm. And so that's a very Mexican belief, the way we see death. Xibalba represents the opposite, right? The other side of the coin. The Western version of death, which is something you don't talk about, something that's scary, something that's going to get you when you're not looking. The angel of death. I mean, literally, that's why he had wings.
Yeah.
To some extent, the fallen one, right? So they became sides of the same coin. And you can't have La Muerte without Xibalba, you can't have Xibalba without La Muerte. Yeah. And then personality-wise, they're based on Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo, very famous Mexican artists, who had a crazy relationship, and to some extent who challenged and defied each other constantly. Personality-wise, Xibalba is basically my grandfather. That's how my grandfather was. So I very much wrote that part with my writing partner, Doug Lango, inspired by my grandfather. And then La Muerte, again, I based it on people I know. I based it on my wife, Sandra, and sort of the type of relationship that we have. So even though these are gods and they're giant symbols representing huge things, the way for me to approach them was to humanize them and base them on people I know.
I can see, I can see that. As a pretty big art nerd myself, I studied art a lot in school. I never, like, unless you pointed out, I never would have seen the parallels to them and Diego and Frida. That's actually really, really cool that you added that in. That's like a nice little Mexican nod, sort of. That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Let's see. Never Fall in Love says, "Hey Jorge, big fan, love your works, love El Tigre as a kid. What was Manolo? What was Manolo's dad's initial reaction to finding out that Manolo had died? Disbelief or despair?"
Well, I mean, you got to remember, Dad felt really, really, really conflicted, right?
Yeah.
For everybody who's seen the movie, Manolo's mom, Maria, died saving both little Manolo and his father in the revolution. So the father basically had to raise the son by himself and wanted nothing more than for his son to be better than him as a bullfighter. So he really pressured him, even though he knew he wanted to be a musician. He really, really pressured him to become a bullfighter. Something we don't reveal in the movie is that Mom actually was a musician. And so by Manolo trying to be a musician, he was reminding his dad of his mother. So it was too painful of a memory for him. So he pushed him even more towards bullfighting.
Mm.
In the movie, when Manolo dies, imagine Dad is basically found his body, and there's no greater pain than a parent losing a child. So it destroyed Carlos.
Yeah.
Finding his son dead after having basically pushed him to do something he never wanted. So it's a very, very sad scene, and we ended up not putting it in the movie because it was devastating.
What happened to Joaquin's mom?
So again, we didn't reveal it in the movie, but Joaquin's parents split up.
You heard it here. You heard it here, folks. Coco Studios exclusive.
They were very wealthy, especially the mom came from a very rich family, and so the dad was trying desperately to live up to the high class of that family, and so he went out to sort of win battles and win wars to earn the fortune of this family. And so when he disappeared, trying to catch Chacal, the mom basically left San Angel and went back to the city. And so Joaquin lived by himself in this giant mansion with a butler, sort of like Batman.
It's like a Mexican Home Alone with a butler.
Yeah.
Well,
and to some extent, that's why Joaquin, in the end, he realized if he wanted to be a hero, he had to make some big sacrifices.
Yeah, it's like I got an email. It's like his madre per se. Jorge told us some of this over his tweets already. Well, it's a live stream, so it's cool. So can we some
and honestly, if anybody wants to find out any of the backstory, just go to my Twitter.
Yeah,
I've been actually dropping a lot of the information about the movie. The way I like to work is I basically write backstories to every character, every prop, everything, and so everything in the movie has a story.
Yeah. I think I read it somewhere, but I don't know if it's true. Did you say on your Twitter that Maria is related to Goth Kid?
Yes. Not only is Maria related to Goth Kid, but Maria is technically a Rivera from the Rivera family from El Tigre.
Yeah.
So the way Sandra and I like to create these things is everything's connected. There's a family tree that basically connects anything we make. And so Frida Suarez from El Tigre is related to Joaquin Mondragon, and Manny is basically related to the Sanchez family.
Yeah. And La Muerta is related to the El Tigre villain as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
La Muerta and Cibalba had many kids, one of which is the villain in El Tigre, Sartana of the Dead.
And oh boy, here's a mouthful. All right, so Kristen Toto says, "Hello, Mr. Gutierrez. I'm a fan of your work, especially the Book of Life. As someone who is a Hispanic, I'm actually Cuban though, your work makes me want to celebrate culture. As for the Book of Life, I'm thinking of creating a story that focuses around a group of teenage girls and the impact of Mexican culture on modern culture, the main girl being a Mexican herself and a singer and a guitarist. Should I go for it? And do you think it's a good idea or not?" I know this is a question for Mr. Gutierrez, but before he answers, if you don't mind, I think definitely just go for it. Don't really think about it. If you have an idea and you really want to do it, just go for it. Just do it. Don't let your dreams be dreams. And Mr. Gutierrez.
I absolutely agree with you. We are in a time now where if you have a unique story and you have passion to pursue it, there has never been a time in history with more outlets for stuff. So write it, draw it, design it, and put it out there. And the way these things work is the only way you get better at making stuff is by making stuff. So do it.
You'll never, what was his name? You'll never know until you try, Christina. You'll never know until you try. We'll definitely, tell us how it goes. Just comment back here. We'll love to know how it happens. Let's see. Putty Leachman asked, what inspires Waheen's German side of the family?
You know what? Again, one of our favorite artists is Frida Kahlo, and she was, her dad was German, and so there was a big influence also of German culture in Mexico. the polka basically inspired norteño music, and so I've always loved that German influence in Mexico, and that's where that side of Joaquin came from. And I also like the idea that he had German blood in him, so he was a really good soldier and really good at certain things from that side.
Yes. That's cool. Like one thing, not a nitpick, but one thing I didn't understand about the movie, he was still a good fighter without the badge on, right? He was still He was just
the idea was he would have been a hero without the badge, and so it was like an incredible athlete who ended up taking steroids and juicing. Joaquin pretty much would have been a hero without that badge, but he became dependent on it, and to some extent became cocky because of it. So that was kind of the idea with that badge, that if he really wanted to be a hero, he needed to basically throw it away.
Let's see. Yes. Coasty 360 says, Jorge, while you were in Texas making the Book of Life, did you ever meet Robert Rodriguez?
Yes, I was. It was actually really cool. Before we started Book of Life, I got to pitch the movie to him, and I showed him a bunch of designs. I've always been a fan of Robert, and so to hear him say how much he loved the back then the visuals and all these things, it was a huge honor. And then after the movie came out, I actually got to go to Austin, and he hosted a screening of the film for fans in Austin, Texas.
That must have been
awesome. And afterward, he did a Q&A with me, and so I got to sit for an hour and have one of my film heroes ask me a bunch of questions. So it was pretty amazing, and I'm a huge fan of what he's done. And his book, he wrote a book that every film student should read, and very much inspired me. One of my favorite things I read from him is he said everybody has 10 really bad short films inside of them, and so the faster you get them out, the faster you get to the good stuff. And I think he's right.
What's the name of his book? I might look into that.
Rebel Without a Crew.
All right, I'll probably definitely look into that. It must be uploaded later. Of course, it'll be uploaded later. Yes. So one thing I'd like to ask, speaking of the visuals of the Book of Life, I know I asked this before, but again, for the people who obviously weren't here when we were talking 101, you've said before that while you do like how the original film the film looks in the end, you wanted it more to look like the concept art for the film, correct?
Yeah, you know what? One of the things that would happen to me is I've always loved animation, so I would always buy the art of books, and a lot of times I would buy the art of books, and they come out before the movie, and so I would look at these art of books and I would imagine like, holy cow, this movie is gonna look amazing, and then I'd go to the movie and it did not look like the book at all, and so it always broke my heart. And so when Book of Life started doing development, I said, I'm going to talk to as many art directors and production designers as I can and try to figure out what the hell's going on. Why don't they look like the art? And sure enough, I found out that usually things have to change because of budget and logistics. And so on Book of Life, we decided, okay, we're going to make this movie and we're going to have the artwork be the Bible to what the film's going to look like. And that meant we had to work extra hard on the artwork, but then also extra hard on the CG to match the artwork. And so it was really, really, really tough. Book of Life, the way these movies work, usually they cost $100, $150 million, $200 million sometimes to make. We only had 50. So it was a very, very small budget. And so as a first-time director, I don't want to be told I can't do certain things. I figured this might be the only movie I get to make.
Yeah.
So we pushed things as hard as we could, and people worked incredibly hard to make this film. But that was from the beginning. It was always planned.
If you had, $1 trillion billion and no budget or whatever, just no bounds, you could make another movie again, no matter, no consequence. Would you make it? Would you make it like a 2D style, as if it were like the art of book?
Wait, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? Your sound kind of died for a little bit.
If you had $1 trillion billion, you could do whatever you wanted for movies. Would you, and like you wanted to remake the Book of Life, would you remake it so it would look just like the Art of book?
What? I think it looks like the Art of book.
but like in like a 2D style, maybe.
$1 billion, I would love to see a stop motion version of the Book of Life.
Do you think you'd use actual wood for that, or do you think you'd just go with clay?
Oh, absolutely. It would all be, animators would get splinters on their fingers from animating.
Yeah.
It would be great.
It would be worth it. It's part of this, it's part of the experience.
Yes.
Let's see. What does this say? Well, don't get mad at me for not answering your questions. We were talking. Hello, Mr. Gutierrez. Thank you so much for doing this Q&A session, says Amber Goldsmith and me. But as an equestrian since age 7, how did Joaquim's father learn to ride horses, and what is his horse's name?
So the way we treated the horses was, Joaquin basically is the super soldier. And so the idea was, if you look at the movie, there's not a lot of horses. Even the bandits don't have horses. And so we treated the horse like it was a sports car for this rich guy. And the horse is female, and it was named Plata, which means silver. And so it's basically like a convertible Porsche in Mexico. That's how we treated the car. And so it was inherited. The horse was the daughter of his dad's horse. Like, basically everything had this royal history to it. But yeah, the Joaquin's horse is very special. In an earlier draft of the movie, Chacal, the villain, kills the horse. Because, I wanted everybody to hate Chacal even more. And what's more hateful than kill a horse? And so we did that early. And it was just too mean. Even for me, I was like, we can't do that. We can't kill the horse.
The connection was there. The audience would just shatter their hearts.
Yeah.
They're not ready. They're not ready for this. They're not ready. Let's see. Jerry, these usernames. Putty the Belly Chan, I guess, says, if Manolo and Maria's love story was based on the Greek myth Orpheus and Eurydice, will Joaquim's love story be based on a myth as well?
Yes and no. And good, as a lover of Greek mythology, definitely Orpheus was a huge influence on the movie. And also the movie Black Orpheus from Brazil, which is sort of a Rio de Carnaval version of Orpheus. The second love story, potentially the Book of Life sequel, will be Joaquin's story, but Manolo and Maria will also be very, very involved with it. And I honestly could not find a myth that matches the story that I was looking for in Greek mythology, but I found certain myths that I really like in Mayan culture. So if you research Mayan myths, you're gonna see the plot to Book of Life 2 somewhere in there. That's all I can say.
There's a little heads up. Maybe Book of Life sequel. Who knows? There's a lot of comments. All right, so let's see. Where does this go? Vinny's Pop says, enormous fan, Jorge. I was wondering, how are the chances for the Book of Life trilogy, or at least a sequel?
Well, as of now, the movie just came out a few weeks ago in Italy, and so I think it just finished.
Really?
Here all over the world, and then the Blu-rays are thankfully selling really, really well. But the way these things work, you kind of have to let them breathe for a while. Even though I always conceived this as a trilogy, I'm currently not working on Book of Life 2. I'm working on the Kung Fu Space Western. And that's going to take me a few years, right? It's going to take me at least 3 to 4 more years. So for Book of Life 2 to happen, we're talking about 8 to 10 years from now, which I think is good. I like when the sequels take a little while.
Yeah. But what's a Western space thing? What is this? I've never heard of this.
Oh, so the new movie, Real Effects has announced it, that I'm working on, is an untitled Kung Fu Space Western. And it's, I love kung fu movies. I really love westerns.
I love it all. I love it already. Like, that's just the ultimate title.
And it was very much inspired by me moving to Texas and sort of working with people from all over the world here in Texas, and also food trucks. One of the things that as you guys who have seen what I look like, I love food. And so one of the things that has really inspired me is this cultural mix that I'm seeing, and obviously in music and literature and in movies, but also in food, where people are mixing things up. Tacos with Korean bulgogi beef and burritos with Indian curry. Like, I'm loving this mix of cultures that I'm seeing. And so the new film is very much a love letter to that idea that when cultures mix, good things happen. And this thing will take place in Texas, but it's kind of a love letter to two cultures working together. And so it deals with the border, it deals with Mexico and how Mexico and the U.S. They work together, good things will happen. If they don't work together, bad things will happen. So it's very mythical, and I'm having a blast working on it. We haven't announced much about it because it's all still top secret. But if anybody liked the Book of Life, I think they're really, really gonna like the new film. And of course, they are related. Lots of the characters will be ancestors from Book of Life.
In that minute or so explanation, I'll give it to you. You already have me hooked on that idea. I'm liking it. Kung Fu Space Western. That is the ultimate title. What else can I say? Right. Let's see. If Manila's not, we already answered that. What's his name? Whooper asks, what is your favorite episode of any cartoon you've ever worked on? Could be.
So El Tigre, the favorite episode for me was there was an episode called Yellow Pantera, which basically dealt with Manny's dad, and Manny thinking his dad was a coward for running away from a fight. And so the whole episode, he questioned his father's manhood. And then in the end, he found out why he ran away. And it was that he realized if he died, he couldn't take care of Manny as a kid, as a baby, and his mom. And so that was very much based on something that happened with my grandfather and something that happened with my dad. And so I wanted to honor both of them with that episode. They've never seen it, unfortunately, but that's by far that story and that idea was something that I was really, really proud of. Dave Thomas directed it. Eddie Trigueros did the storyboards, and both of those guys were amazing people on El Tigre. But yeah, that's probably my favorite cartoon I've ever worked on.
There you have it, Whooper. Oh, wow, that's a great name. Let's see. Yen asked, was there anything about making films, especially on the Book of Life, that scared you? I don't know if that means like ghosts on set or just production. But was there anything that made you nervous?
Wait, was there anything? Can you dropped out a little bit? Can you repeat the question?
It's a little messed up, but the basis is there anything about making the Book of Life that scared you? It's probably a list.
It was really tough. It was, making Book of Life was, I felt like I was going to die multiple times. It was so scary. And unfortunately, one of the things that really freaked me out was, when you make an animated movie, you have to test them. And so you get to hear what the audience thinks of your movie. They write it down. And some of the comments, oh my God, they were so shocking to me. I have a thick skin. I can pretty much take it. If anybody hates anything I do, I'm okay with that. But when I would read comments that were racist or had such hatred in them, like some people would say, I can't recommend this movie because it was made for them. It wasn't made for us. And stuff like that. It was kind of shocking to me hear people say stuff like that.
In 2015, nonetheless.
In 2015. So that all the racist stuff really, I guess, because I basically worked in Los Angeles and I work down here in Dallas, I haven't been a victim of much racism. I would have to be honest with you. Like people have always been very kind and very nice to me. So
that's good.
To see all those things pop up was kind of a shocking thing. So that was really scary, and especially when the way I see it, kids are very open-minded, but their parents pretty much have made up their mind about a lot of things. So animation to me is one of those mediums that hopefully we are empowering kids and children to make up their own minds and not follow what their parents believe if those beliefs are antiquated or very separatist or full of hate.
That's good to think. Were there any like comments you got that were not like downright mean, but just downright like nonsensical, like that stick in your mind?
Well, I mean, as you can imagine, in Mexico, the movie wasn't considered Mexican enough, and here in the U.S., the movie was considered too Mexican. So, as a child of the border, I'm very not only comfortable, but I'm very used to disappointing both sides. So I'm okay with it.
It's good to I like that people have an open mind to this sort of thing at times. Let's see. Amber Goldsmith asked, Mr. Gutierrez, on Twitter you mentioned that La Muerta has a twin sister, La Noche, and that La Noche rules over the land of the unknown. What is the land of the unknown, and what does it look like?
So in the potential Book of Life sequel, other lands will be introduced, and other gods will be introduced. And yes, La Muerte is La Muerte's twin sister. And so the land of the unknown is where all the magical beings exist, right? Mexican folklore is full of alebrijes and all these characters, chupacabras, all these sort of fantastic creatures. So that's where those creatures live. There's also going to be the land of the cursed, which is where El Chamuco, Xibalba's brother, rules. So throughout the sequels, we will be introducing other lands and other gods, both good and evil, and neutral. So
fear the unknown.
Yep.
The garden wall. More questions. Let's see. Are you Vinzi Poop or Pop? Vinzi Pop. My mind's in the gutter. Vinzi Pop asks again, are you remaining at Dallas FX Real FX as a art director? My dream is to work on features and I'd love to apply sometime. One of your films was in production. It'd be a dream to be involved. That seems like a personal question, but I will twist it in a way that says, if someone was interested into like getting into animation, where do you think would be a good place for them to start?
Well, as of today, I'm still here at Real Effects. This is where we're making the Kung Fu Space Western. We're always looking for cool people, so please submit your work to Real Effects if you're looking to get into animation. And then if you're younger, if you're in high school or you're starting out, I would highly encourage you to do your research on schools. There's lots of great animation schools, but there's also great online animation schools. I really believe the world is changing, and so a lot of the people we hired on Book of Life were people we found on Tumblr. We would just look at portfolios there, and people keep sending me stuff, and so obviously I want to work with people who already like Book of Life and what we think would fit in really well with our team here. So again, this is an era where you can now send someone a link to your work. Back in my day, you had to physically take your portfolio to a studio. Now you can contact directors directly, and you can contact art directors directly. It's a pretty great time.
You can bribe them to be on your live stream. It works every time. tell you now. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. So Wahim himself asked, I'm so nervous and happy. No doubt. And what? Okay, let me try to read this. So Wahim DeLucia asked, I'm so nervous and happy. no doubt. And a question that I've had since the captain and Carlos were rivals since they were children, how did Mondragon, am I saying that right?
Yeah, Mondragon.
Yeah, Mondragon react to Carlos in a coma?
So this fan really knows their Book of Life history.
This kid's deep in the lore.
Manolo's father and Joaquin's father were rivals growing up in San Angel, and so as we reveal in the movie, when Carlos went into a coma for a few months, I think Captain Mondragon, when he was a kid, was devastated. This is even though he's his rival, it's someone he would measure up himself against, and so like all good rivals, he was rooting for him to come back.
And no, I think we have time for one more. Yeah, we have time for one more.
Yeah.
More. Would you please tell us more about Sheila, the bandit princess?
Absolutely. So, Chacal wasn't always evil, the big giant bandit, and so he saved a little baby during the war, and so that baby is not his kid, so he raised her. And so Chela is basically this bandit princess that was Chacal's soft spot. That was the one thing that kept them good. Eventually, Chacal got the Medal of Everlasting Life. We got this other object that we were going to reveal in the sequel called the Sword of Seven Sins. So all these magical objects started corrupting him. And so that's when he turned into a monster. So Chela has been on her own mission, doing a bunch of crazy stuff that we can't talk about. But eventually, she's going to find out Manolo and Joaquin killed her father, and so she's on her way to San Angel to basically avenge her dad. And this is all in the sequels. It's telling you now. Corporate Studios exclusives.
All right, we'll do one last question, and the last question of tonight will be Eli W. asked, how did Mr. Del Toro enter the production for the Book of Life?
Okay, that's a really good last question. So Guillermo, like all Mexican filmmakers and Mexican film fans and Mexican animation nerds, I freaking adore Guillermo del Toro. I've listened to all his audio commentaries multiple times, and so he's always been my hero. I've always wanted to pitch him Book of Life, and he turned me down. You have no idea how many times. I wouldn't say hundreds, but it's up there.
Yeah.
Eventually, he just wanted to say no to my face and stop bothering him. And so I managed to get to pitch to him the movie thanks to Real Effects, and it was a horrible pitch. It was kind of a disaster. But Guillermo had seen El Tigre, and he has two daughters, and he told me on Saturday mornings that I would watch El Tigre, and so I know your style, I know your cartoons, I know your artwork, I know your sense of humor. Of course I want to produce your movie. And, again, I peed my pants. I was so excited.
Well, thank you so much, Jorge, for coming on my show. I'm afraid that's the end of the first Cartoons vs. Cancer live stream. Definitely not the last Cartoons vs. Cancer live stream. Expect either Patrick McHale or Chris Flousy. I don't know how to say his name. Chris Falusi on the next one. But besides that, thank you all for watching. Please donate to the cancer cause below in the description. I will also post it in the comment. And I will see you guys later. Always play from the heart.